Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the National Weather Service in Atlanta's weekly briefing for the week of Thursday, March the 7th, 2024. I'm going to focus on the short-term portion of the forecast because that's when the most significant hazards will be affecting us going into the weekend, and this is primarily for Friday and Saturday. Let's start off with the flooding. We do have a flood watch that's in effect from tomorrow night, that is Friday night through Saturday night, across much of north and central Georgia. That extends back into Alabama. There is a moderate risk of excessive rainfall from Friday night through Saturday. On the severe side, there is a slight risk of severe weather going into Saturday for much of Georgia. We'll cover that in a minute. But a flood watch has been issued, and the severe risk is expanded for much of North Georgia through Saturday. Our confidence is very high on this. We have a level 4 out of level 5 on the confidence for the forecast going into this weekend. So let's start off with what's happening this afternoon. You can see that there's mostly clear skies today. However, we will see increasing cloudiness as the system that will be affecting our weekend approaches from the west. Moisture will be also increasing out ahead of that approaching system. Winds will become out of the south and southeast and pretty gusty through Friday afternoon ahead of the approaching system. All right, so let's look at some of the factors contributing to that flood risk. Friday night into Saturday, we are looking at both the combination of significant rainfall and high rainfall rates. Want to look at the graphic on the right-hand side. You can see the total rainfall amounts that we're expecting at this time. These could fluctuate in the next 24 to 48 hours going into the event, but note most of the area is under a widespread 2 to 3 inches. There are pockets of 3 to 4. In fact, there are some pockets starting to appear in some of the higher resolution guidance that we look at of higher amounts down here in this LaGrange region of middle Georgia. Also want you to pay attention to this particular sector right here. Two particular areas that are showing up with possible swaths of excessive rainfall that could cause a lot of problems going from Friday night into Saturday morning and then extending through the morning hours on Saturday. The other thing that we have to deal with is the saturated soils. From the rainfall that occurred the other day. The combination of that, the rivers running high, and these excessive rainfall amounts could lead to some flash flooding and a lot of river and stream flooding going into the weekend. This is the latest and greatest Weather Prediction Center's excessive rainfall outlook. And again, we highlighted in the beginning of this slideshow the moderate risk. Now here you can see it on the map. This is the area of greatest risk for flash flooding from Friday night into Saturday, and it does include the Atlanta metro, extends southward to about Columbus and eastward to maybe just north of Macon. Again, a lot of the computer guidance that we look at is highlighting this particular area for the potential to be fairly heavy to even significant rainfall amounts Friday night into Saturday. The best timing appears to be about 1 a.m., give or take a few hours through midday on Saturday. So it's about a 12-hour window when we're expecting a lot of that rain, maybe upwards of 18 inches. The threats do include flash flooding, including urban flooding in the metro during the nighttime hours potentially, rapid rises on local streams and rivers with river flooding potentially going all the way through next week. And then obviously rapid inundation of low-lying areas will be likely. The other thing with this, because rivers are pretty full from the flooding last week, we would expect flooding to occur rather quickly because a lot of that water doesn't have a place to run off into because the rivers and streams are already full. This is something we like to show that give you some idea of the probabilities of any additional or higher amounts than what we're actually showing or forecasting. So the graphic on the top right, or let's start on the bottom left. The graphic on the bottom left is the probability of greater than 3 inches of rainfall. And this is from all of the computer model guidance summed together. And when you start talking amounts of 30% or higher, those are pretty significant when we're talking the amount of 3 inches. So in this case, you can see, in particular, the two corridors that I mentioned in the last slide. This one down here, there's a swath. This one right here going into the metro. These are percentages, very high percentages of greater than 3 inches possible going into the Friday night, Saturday time frame. The graphic on the top right is the probability of 4 inches or greater through Saturday morning. And the one thing you want to start to see is maybe a little bit of diminishing of the sector that's up near the Atlanta metro, and not so much down to the south. And that's because when we start looking at some of the extreme rainfall amounts, we start to see some computer models hinting at some possibility for very heavy rainfall in this sector. And so there's quite a bit of guidance that's showing 4 or 5 and even possibility of 6+ inches in this particular range in that 12 to 18 hour period. Those amounts alone are going to cause a lot of problems. And so we just want to highlight that there's some guidance out there suggesting some very heavy rainfall amounts even above what we're currently predicting. All right, let's focus on the severe threat real quick. This is the latest day 3 outlook from the Storm Prediction Center. This will be updated to the day 2 overnight tonight, and focus on the time frame going into Saturday morning through Saturday. If you basically drew a line from Columbus to Atlanta to Greenville, South Carolina, and anywhere south and east of that, there is a severe risk. The severe risk is more contingent on some factors up here in the north, and we are a lot more confident in this particular area of the outlook for severe weather as we go through Saturday. We're looking at maybe some pre-dawn activity near Columbus, but early Saturday pre-dawn, maybe northwest portion, with the risk shifting east and south through the day on Saturday into Saturday afternoon. Hazards, damaging wind gusts with squall line potentially, and also a possibility of tornadoes, not only in the early morning hours on Saturday, but also shifting to the southeast during the day on Saturday. Let's talk about those severe weather caveats as well as the severe weather risk. What I want to start off by showing you is the radar loop you can see running on the right-hand side. That starts about Friday at 4 p.m. through 2 p.m. Saturday, 1 hour increments. What I wanted you to take note is how long the reds and the yellow areas, which is basically denoted as convection, stays across this middle Georgia sector where the flooding risk is. That obviously will produce a rainfall threat. But then towards the tail end of this loop, I want you to take note at a lot of the splotchy nature of it. And that is going to be representative of the severe threat that starts to work in during the day Saturday as we start to destabilize. And so you can see some of it across the northern part of what would have been that slight risk, but really starts to take shape once it gets south and east of the Macon area. We start to see it really fill in. And again, that will be the key for us. One thing of note, these overnight storms, the stuff that you see starting off in the beginning of this loop, could push some type of a boundary further south. That could inhibit some of the severe threat further north, and that's why we say we have a lower confidence on the northern side of that outlook. However, the severe threat could be earlier further south and start a little bit earlier with these early morning storms. So when we focus on the Saturday later aspect of it, there is a small chance towards the end of this loop that instability does work far enough north and we get unstable enough that we see storms as far north as I-20 during the day, but it is contingent on this early morning convection and whether or not it inhibits destabilization further north. However, the best chances we believe for severe weather are really focused south and east of the Macon area during the day Saturday. Switching back to flooding real quick, looking at some of the computer model simulations with the rainfall. We are looking at the possibility of moderate flooding along several river systems, namely the Oconee and the Yellow. The Chattahoochee and the Ocmulgee could also be impacted depending on where the heavy rainfall axis is. And that's denoted by all of the red dots and the moderate flood potential with some of the rainfall inputs. The widespread minor flooding, those are all the orange dots, would be almost area wide. We've already got numerous points in minor flood as it currently stands. They would either stay there or go back into minor flood. But it all really depends on where the axis of heavy rain sets up as to which systems would be impacted the most, which river systems would be impacted the most. And so we'll have to see how that starts to play out and take shape as we get into the weekend. So taking a look at the week beyond Saturday, much cooler going into Sunday, windy. We are expecting some pretty strong winds behind the front Saturday night. A freeze or frost possibility is looking likely maybe Monday and definitely on Tuesday, particularly across northern parts of Georgia. We will see a gradual warming trend through the week. We are looking at dry conditions until later next week when the next system approaches. However, given all the rain that's coming in, we are expecting numerous sites to go into and remain in flood through the week, with some moderate or even possibly higher flooding possible depending on where the heaviest rainfall axis ends up and how much we get. Here is that look out in the extended period, which would be later next weekend and next weekend. You can see we're expecting well above normal temperatures, most likely on the latter half of the forecast, with again that above normal chance of rainfall, or above normal chance of getting above normal rainfall from the March 12th to the 16th time period. A lot of this looks like it's going to occur near the 15th and the 16th. So again, we'd be fairly dry through about the 14th or so, but then we introduce another system to give us a potential for rain next weekend. Here's just a surface map looking at Sunday with that front pushing through well off the East Coast and cooler air pushing in Saturday night into Sunday. We are looking at some pretty good northwest winds on Saturday and Sunday, so there will be an outside chance of trees coming down or tree issues, particularly with the winds and the saturated soils Sunday, particularly Saturday night into Sunday morning with some of these west-northwest gusty winds. A quick look at the highs going from Monday through Wednesday of next week. You can see a gradual warm up from the 60s on Monday to touching 70 on Tuesday to lower 70s by Wednesday. A quick look at the lows statewide Monday night or Sunday night into Monday morning. You can see some of those lower 30s creeping into the northwest part of the state, middle to upper 30s across much of our portion of the forecast area, with 40s across South Georgia. Similar numbers on Monday night into Tuesday morning, with a gradual warming trend by Wednesday morning, getting down to the 40s. It is these Monday morning and Tuesday morning we're looking at the possibility for frost. We are planning additional briefings leading into the weekend system. We expect another recorded briefing tomorrow, along with additional information via email as well as on our website. And that concludes this week's weekly briefing. If you need to get in touch with us, any number of ways you can get in touch with us. You can find any one of them on the screen in front of you.